Hey, what's up? Good morning, naughty community. Welcome back to my naughty hobby for another easy to follow crochet tutorial with Amber. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do the Jasmine star stitch or flower stitch. It's known kind of by both, but it is a super puffy and texturized variation of just like a regular star stitch. And I'm excited. I've had this stitch on my radar for a little bit and was always intimidated by the diagram that went along with this stitch. But I'm going to have you guys feeling like a crochet master by the end of this tutorial. If you want to follow along with my exact dimensions, I'm going to be using a 5mm hook and some worsted weight yarn. I believe I lost the label to the yarn that I want to use for this, but I'm pretty sure that it is Red Heart's Unforgettable. It has a nice, I guess, like an ombre effect or a gradual color change. Hi, Giovanna and Kimberly. Good morning. Hi, April. Glad to see you guys on today. So let's go ahead and get started now that I see a few people have jumped on. We'll kind of keep this to give you guys an idea. This was my first attempt at the star stitch, so it's pretty holy and, you know, not quite how I like it. This one was a little bit better, and I hope that this tutorial will even be better than the first two. Something that is amazing about this pattern is it doesn't require any kind of counting or multiples of, a lot of patterns that I do, I'll say, a multiple of 8 plus 1 or whatever it is. This one requires none of that because we are going to use the chainless puff stitch foundation. Chainless? I don't even know, or a foundation chainless puff stitch. So let's get started. Just creating a slip knot here. Good morning, Malty. Seems like everybody's in pretty good spirits, which is always nice. Okay, so we've created our slip knot, and you're just going to chain 1. From here, you want to pull up a little bit larger of a loop, and we're going to yarn over it, and we're going to be working into that 1 chain that we made. So yarn over, insert your hook into that back loop, and drop a loop that's going to meet the height requirement or the height of that long loop that you pulled. You're going to yarn over, insert your hook, and drop another loop. And you'll see throughout this tutorial that I kind of tug and pull. Again, that's to create a space right underneath my hook because we're going to be working with a lot of loops on our hook to complete these stitches. And then we're going to do that 1 more time, so a total of going into it 3 times, just like you would with a puff stitch. Now here comes the trickiest part of working out the Jasmine stitch. You're going to yarn over again, but then you want to pinch a little piece of your yarn here and bring that up. And you'll see why here in a minute. But now you'll pull that loop through all of the hoops or loops on your hook. Don't let go of this yet because we're going to insert our hook here and drop another loop. We're basically securing that puff in place. Now we'll just create a regular single crochet. We've got 2 on our hook. So you yarn over and you're going to pull through those 2. Now our stitches are going to be worked right here into that stitch we just created. So pull up a long loop, yarn over, insert your hook, and pull up another long loop. Total of 3 times. So that was 1, 2, and 3. Remembering to hold on to that loop, pull through all loops on your hook. Insert your hook into the loop you were holding on to. Drop another loop, yarn over, and complete the stitch. So here we've created 2 puff stitch chainless foundation stitches, and oh man, is that a mouthful to say. But basically here we are avoiding doing a chain and then working into the chain. Good morning, Patricia and Lucy. Happy to see you guys on here today. So I'll work out a few more of those pretty slow so you guys can follow along. Pulling up a long loop, yarning over, inserting my hook here in that stitch we just made. There's that third one. I believe it's a total of 7 stitches on the hook, 2, 4, 6, and 7. So once you have 7, you'll yarn over again and pinch the bottom part of your yarn. Pull through all loops on the hook. There's that stitch. Don't want to lose it. From here, to make your holes a little bit smaller, you can even tug your work to where it's a little bit more snug. Yeah, foundation chains or starting chains end up puckering my work a lot. So chainless foundations are where it's at. There's 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4 there. And this is a forgiving pattern, so if you only go through, only yarn over and pull through twice, it's not going to be a huge deal. By keeping that loop pulled out and then working the single crochet into it, like I said, we do that because it helps keep your holes smaller. We'll just do a couple more of these. 1, 2, and 3. Yarn over. See how I'm holding it here? Pulling through all of the loops, but keeping this one open. Just going to slide my hook into there. And I'm telling you, that really is the most difficult part of this pattern, is keeping a hold on that loop to secure it down. I'll do 1 more of these. Good morning, Tammy. One, 2, and 3. And the more control of your tension you have, the easier this stitch will also be. Okay, so that's going to be our foundation row that we work into. From here to start like a turn chain, you're going to work another stitch just the exact same way that we just did those foundations, where you pull up a bigger loop and insert your hook. Maybe. This is going to be my turn chain. There's 2, 3, so we're going to look at it like this now. Trying to make sure I stay in focus. Now we're going to start the actual pattern working across the stitches we just created. Now instead of doing the yarn over and inserting our hook 3 times, we're just going to go twice. Now we're going to work into the first stitch of that row. See, you're probably holding your work like this. Come up here, and we're going to do 2 more into this stitch. If you're familiar with the star stitch, this is going to be more familiar to you, because really the only thing that's changing is how many times we are yarning over. Now we're going to yarn over and insert into our next stitch, which is right here. Same way, yarn over, pull up 1 loop, yarn over, insert, pull up another loop, and when you've got 13 loops on your hook, let's just count to make sure, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. We're going to end it the same way that we were doing those foundation stitches. Yarn over, grab a hold of the bottom of that loop, and you're gently going to guide this through, which can be a little tricky. Did it there. We're going to secure it the same way. That's our first one of the row complete. Again, working with long loops. Now we're going to work our first set right into here, this space. There's 1, 2. I count it out like this. 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm working those stitches up to create the space again. Doesn't always help. I need a little bit more on my loop. Once I have it on there for the single crochet, sometimes I'll push it down. I found that helps with keeping your holes a little bit smaller. Complete that single crochet. Ah, thanks, Lisa. And hey, Rana, thanks for jumping on, if only just for a few minutes. So again, we pulled up a long loop, yarned over, insert your hook, drop another loop. That's 1, 2. Same place that we worked our last stitch. 3, 4, 5, and 6. For a total of 13 on your hook. come on. There we go. Missed that last loop. This is one of those patterns that until you really get the rhythm down, you're going to want to take your time. It'll be easier as you go along if you take a few extra minutes to work your hook through all of the stitches. It'll keep your stars looking a little bit more uniform. Trying to hold a real loose tension when we pinch off that yarn to bring through. I had watched a video tutorial, or tried to find a good video tutorial when I was learning this, and the one that I found, the accent was so heavy. It had a lot of views, and so I was like, surely this will be a good one, but the accent was so heavy that I wasn't able to follow it. Got really frustrated. So I hope that I'm being clear and precise for you guys. If I need to slow down or go over something again, this is a repeat pattern, but please just let me know and I will slow it down. But I'm using loose tension here to keep that space on my hook. And I hope if you consider yourself a beginner crocheter, I just want to say I'm so happy that you're here. Because when things are slowed down and you're able to really see where they go, it's going to help build your confidence. I have all the, what would you call it? Like all the confidence in the world that you are able to complete this stitch just by having it slowed down. When I first started crocheting though, I would have taken one look at this stitch and been like, yeah, that's a future 10 years down the road me. That ain't me today. Because this is our first row, the next stitch that we do can be a little tricky to find the last stitch because it's our first of, I totally forgot to hold my loop out. Which, yes, if you forget to hold your loop out, you might be able to get away with it, but you'll have all these nice tight holes and then one massive one. So we'll just go ahead and redo it. Holding out that loop. There's 2, 3, 4, and now our last 2 are going to go into that start chain where we initially put our first puff stitch here. And I wish we had more than one loop to go through, but we don't. And it'll kind of work itself out as far as the way that it looks in the next row. But it's done just the same way as the rest. Uh-oh. That's a bummer. One, two, three, 4, 5, and 6. Doreen, you can totally do this. I have complete confidence. Holding that back. I like the way, I can't believe I did it again. I like the way that this yarn works up. I'm going to do this one just a little bit quicker because I'm struggling with it. I don't usually like variegated yarn, but I really like the way that this Unforgettable by Red Heart works up. Just a little fuzzy. Get out of there, tail. All right, let's try this hopefully just one more time. Don't do it. Okay. Phew. There's that stitch I was holding on to. So that's how your first row after your foundation, which is these green stitches here, are worked out. You'll just turn your work. Yeah, this stitch definitely does take some patience, Sandy. All right, now to start off a new row, again, pull up another loop, and we're going to do this stitch or this puff stitch same way we did our foundation with a total of 3 yarn overs, like you would a regular puff. But we will close it the same way that we've been doing throughout this pattern. Should look like that. And then we're going to start over again. It's the same for each row, so really nothing changes. Remember, when you start on there, we're only yarning over, inserting our hook, and pulling up a loop twice. It would probably be difficult to hold any more loops on your hook than what we've already got going on with the 2 yarn overs. Not saying it couldn't be done. Maybe if you used a Tenetian hook. But loosening your hold on your yarn so there's some give as you bring it through also helps. You're welcome, Margaret. I've had my eye on this stitch for a while as well. But I too was intimidated to try it. But now that I understand how it works, I'm so glad that I just went ahead and did it. It creates such a lovely texture. Super squishy, no matter if you're using Unforgettable like me, or I just used some of my Yarn Bee Soft Secret, and it also has mega texture. You're welcome, Sharon. Sandy, is this better? It's kind of hard for me to work those stitches all the way through. But you can see our first star is now complete here, or flower, whichever way your eyes are seeing it. I think it really depends on the color that you're using, if you see a star or if you see a flower. Dealing with yarn squeak again. There's 3 and 4. 5 and 6. You know, one of my biggest pet peeves when I'm trying to learn new stitches and techniques is when you're searching around on Pinterest or even here on Facebook, wherever you tend to search for new stuff, and you come across a really cool stitch that has a video with it of them doing the stitch, but they don't show how it starts. Ooh, nothing irritates me more. And of course, there's not like a name that goes with the stitch, so it makes it even more difficult to look it up, because I'm like, I want to make that, but you know, I don't know how many stitches they have. They should add those kinds of things in the video comments. What their foundation row consisted of. I know I'm not the only one. Bring my stitches up off of my hook. You know, this might be a really great pattern to do with a Tunisian hook, to give those loops a little bit more space. Gonna skip over this one. Here's our last stitch right here that we work into. That's one of the things that actually inspired me to start doing my own tutorials, was dealing with frustration of other people claiming or saying that they had a tutorial, but them not actually explaining it or showing in a way that could be applicable to whatever project it is that you want to make with that stitch. I feel like you're just showing off, right? you're just showing off your hooker skills and you don't want anybody else to know how you got it, how you got there. So remember, when we start a new row, instead of doing the yarning over twice, we do it 3 times. Still got my thumb there. And then our first one starts in that top of that single crochet that we made on top of our first puff stitch. So there's 1, 2, we'll start our regular count, working into that last stitch that we worked, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. These last few stitches always give me a hard time. Oh, I might be able to salvage it. No, I'm not even messing with that. Not even messing with it. I'll just start over. Maybe I need to make these a little easier to work, a little longer. Ha! Victory on that stitch. Oh, you're welcome, Grace. I really do try to think about the speed I'm going and the things I'm saying based off of my own irritations and frustrations when I first started learning, or even now, like I'm still learning, because there's so much out there that I could probably learn a new stitch or technique every day for the rest of my life and not know everything that crochet has to offer. Oh, thank you, Marianne. I really, really appreciate that. When I hear things like that, it just motivates me to keep creating and confirms that I am reaching the right people. So that's like a huge compliment. Thank you so much. I found if I hold more of a loop, it's easier to bring this through. Gives it a little more room to work with. Your stars should be starting to really pop now. Working on the second full ones here. Oh, I didn't see if somebody had mentioned about the Tanetian hooks. One of my last thrift shopping excursions, though, I found these bad boys, which are Tanetian hooks, also known as the Afghan hooks, for like 10 cents a piece. They're double-sided hooks and they're super long. This is probably a foot long, if I had to guess. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe even like 13 inches. but there's a hook on both sides, and I don't know, I got a whole collection of them. So if you're not sure what Tunisian hooks are, here they are. Longer pieces, or longer hooks, I guess, not pieces. Molly's asking if I have any tips for consistently pulling through so many loops, and it's hard. I would say really paying attention to your tension in general. I have a very light grip on all of my work, and it's still, you know, I'm still, as you guys can see, as you've been following along, I'm still struggling to make it through all of the loops. But I'm using very light tension here. I have a very loose grip on my work, because the tighter you work these stitches, in my opinion, the more difficult it's going to be to bring one loop through 13, because that's how many you should have on your hook. And also making sure that these aren't slipping up onto your plastic piece. I guess if you're using a boy hook, or, you know, a complete metal hook that doesn't have a grip, it's not going to be quite as big of an issue. But I'm trying to where I'm putting like a whole thumb's worth into that loop to give myself more yarn to work with. See, that was even easier. I think the trick is to pinch a bigger loop. And then after you've made sure you didn't lose the loop, then you can tighten, you know, like how you've seen me do this. Then you can tighten it before you complete that single crochet. So we'll try that method again. There's 5 and 6. So a whole thumb's worth of yarn. Yeah, it's definitely easier if I give myself a bigger loop to work through. And maybe if you can get your yarn to separate enough to where when you pull through your loops, you can actually see it going through the first section, grabbing through the second, and then your final third section there. I still got a hold of my loop, just like so. But if you're using a tight tension, it might be hard to separate those stitches out. And then again, here's the last stitch that we work into. So you'll see a long one, go for the shorter one. Oh, Jessica, I'm so happy that you're here. I hope that you stick around and give my page a follow. I always like to welcome fresh new hookers into my naughty community. And I'd be happy to help teach you. I am going to warn you though, buying yarn can quickly turn into an obsession and you can become a yarn hoarder before you even know it. You don't even know that you love yarn, but if you stick around and hang out with me, you're gonna love it. You are going to love it. I got some kind of a random end tangling up my work while I get yarn back in order. You guys missed the tutorial yesterday. I did some super easy face scrubbies. I want to check out that video. And also a bonus at the end of that video, I did a washcloth, which this white doesn't show up very well, but we did these fun crossover stitches. This was yesterday's tutorial. I'm trying to keep them consistent for you guys. Tomorrow I will be doing a basic shell stitch that even the most newbie noobs can finish or can definitely do. All right, so 2 rows of stars. You'll just turn your work. And we'll start on the next row. I'll work a few of these out with you guys. I'm sure some have probably, whoops, what am I doing here? Some might have already jumped off understanding how the stitch works. I was never that one. When I started watching videos, I was the one who watched all the way to the end. Because it's like, geez, I'm still need to see it. So on our turn, we work into that top chain right here for our first set. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you're struggling getting that, holding on to your loop, I would suggest just pulling out a little bit extra, because you can always go back and tighten it, you know, after you've worked your way. See how I have my finger through it? That might be the trick, you guys. That might be the trick that you were meant to see in this video to save yourself that frustration. I could have pulled that a little tighter, but I didn't. Right, Gloria? It's like, and if I see a deal on yarn and it's a fiber that I love to work with, forget about it. I don't even have room to store any more yarn, and I'll still buy it. I'll find a place to hide it, store it, stash it. Every single room in my house has yarn somewhere, except for probably the bathrooms. I know in my drawers in the bathroom, though, there's yarn stuff related. I'm sure I have like stitch markers or probably even a hook. Who knows? Now that I'm getting more comfortable with how to work these, going a little bit faster, but if you're just jumping on, I want you to know the beginning of the tutorial, I never go this fast. I have a few people who have, you know, jumped on mid-tutorial and been really disgruntled with how fast I'm going. But that's because I go so slow in the beginning and figure, if you've been watching from the beginning, that you understand, or hopefully I've explained it in a way that you understand and can start going a little bit quicker. But my videos are always available after the tutorial is complete, so you can see the slow version. So if you're coming in a little bit late, I suggest that you, if you want to try this out, that you share it to your wall, especially if you know, if you've got a whole group of friends who love crochet and would like to see it. I always appreciate a share. One, two, three, 4, 5, and 6. Pulling out a longer loop. I was actually really shocked. I got some, like a hate message from somebody who was just, I don't know if they jumped on mid-tutorial and messaged me in, while I was still doing it, but they were just really upset that, I claim to be this easy to follow instructor and that I slow it down for beginners, and that wasn't the case for them, that I couldn't, they couldn't see what I was doing. And I had to explain, what I just told you guys, that I go slower in the beginning and then speed it up. And usually after the initial part of it is done, some people might just fall off from watching it all, but I love chatting with you guys. It's my favorite part of doing the tutorial and hearing your victories when it comes to crochet. So I know that I could say, all right, you guys, well, you've got the basics down. I'm just going to hit the road now. But I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing about what you're creating, what you think that this stitch, what kind of project you'd like to make with this stitch. I know that this can also be worked in the round, but I haven't learned that technique yet. Because this would make a plush hat. My husband is no help with my yarn hoarding. As a matter of fact, he totally encourages it, which I'm like, that's great, but you're gonna have to build me a she shed just for my yarn, okay? But my husband's so wonderful. He knows that it brings me a lot of joy. Maybe on your end stitches, instead of doing a whole thumb's worth or finger's worth of when you pinch it off, I suppose you'll probably cover this, but maybe keeping it a little bit smaller, because I'm noticing now that on my edges, these pieces are pretty long, or getting longer, since I'm using that finger diameter amount to keep that loop pulled out. Jessica says, I would love to know your favorite yarn brands and favorite fibers. I love working with cotton probably more than any kind of fiber. And it's not specific to one store. I've worked with wonderful cotton fibers from Hobby Yarns. Hobby Lobby has Yarn Bee. I think it's called cotton. It's cotton something, but most of them are in a cotton acrylic blend, and I love the feel of it. Yesterday's tutorial I did with Cotton Fair, and I'm kind of in love with it. I'm not even kidding. I can see myself doing lots of projects with cotton fair fiber this summer because it makes for a really nice, lightweight, comfortable for clothing. Which, if you guys have been following me for a while, I've been talking about. I want to make halter tops and tank tops and fun little summery tops. However, I'm pretty heavy chested and have had a very difficult time finding tutorials for, you know, heavier chested or big busted women. And the one that I did find, oh my gosh, if it wasn't like super inappropriate, I would share it with you guys, but it was a disaster. I made this one with like triangles and it did things to my breasts that are not natural. I'm like, there's nothing, nothing about this top that I could wear into public. It looked more like something, I don't know what nightmares are made out of. And I was so disappointed because I used a really small hook and it took me a long time and it just turned out so bad. But now it's sitting shamefully on my dresser waiting to be altered in some kind of way. I don't even know if it's possible. I just am looking for like maybe some support and cute, right? Like if you're busty, you know what I'm talking about. Is they're like, look, we're going to make you this industrial, I don't even know, military style looking bra. But everybody else gets these super cute, you know, bralettes and halter tops and all different kinds of cute stuff that I can't wear them. I think I'll start out with like a simple design of my own. That's like a, I guess kind of like a halter crop top. Because like the ones that I've seen that I think would be easy to make for a bigger chested, I'm just gonna show you guys, you know, basically would have a design like this. You know, so this part would be for the chest where you're, you know, either starting down here and then getting smaller or vice versa. You know, here would be the halter, and then you would have like the sides to tie around in the back. So I'm probably going to be designing something based off of this very basic shape here to keep these babies in line when we're out at the lake this summer. I better get on it because hopefully in the next few weeks we can do that. I'm definitely going to be coming up. Jenny Jo said that she would love a tutorial for big bust women, and I'm definitely going to come up with something. Some kind of a halter top or tank top or something. But I'm telling you, like most of the tutorials that I saw only go up to a size C. You know, it's like fit any kind of, you know, any size that you need. And I'm like, really? There's not more D-cup crocheters out there? that big loop that we hold out as we're going across our row, just kind of becomes another, another loop on the leg or arm of the star that you're currently working on. Hey Jessica, thank you for coming in, and I hope you have a great day at work, and I hope to see you again in one of my other tutorials. So I think after this one I'll do one more row with you guys. Oh, that went wrong. Oh no, dang it. Is that something I can see what happened? I got a little pull happy. That's better. Dang it. This is just going to go into my ever-growing, I guess, swatch pile. I really should put together a blanket with all of the tutorials I've done on here. I probably have enough of these little squares to do at least like a, I don't know, maybe a baby blanket. Could call it the naughty blanket. Hey Petra, happy to see you here. Also, when working those loops, I'll often take my middle finger of whichever hand you're using for your hook and just push those to the front so they don't get all kind of like scallywampus, I guess. And the unforgettable yarn tends to be a little bit inconsistent with the width of the yarn. You know, sometimes it'll be super chunky and then it'll go super thin. So you might have a little bit, if you're using the same kind of fiber, you might have a little bit more difficult of a time every once in a while with your stitches all fitting onto your hook. We'll do one more, find our last stitch, which is here. I know I said don't pull as big of a loop, but I worry that I'm just not going to be able to get just like that. Sad. Okay, today's Wednesday. Oh, kind of stressed me out for a minute. I can hear they test our tornado sirens every Wednesday at noon or at 11. And obviously they don't do it throughout the winter, and they just started doing it maybe a month ago. And it freaks me out every time. Till I realize, what time is it? Reminds me of this. I used to live in Washington State, and we lived right on the border of Mount Rainier. We lived in a little town called Ording, and my husband's worked out in North Dakota for a long time, even when we lived in Washington, and had my son, who was only about probably 6 or 7 months old at the time, and my daughter, who was about 4. And we had just gotten moved into our new house, and I'm unpacking and everything, and just got the baby down for a nap, and all of a sudden these sirens start going off, and it was the Lahar siren, which basically means the mountain is erupting. And in the town that we lived in, in the case that the mountain were to erupt, you only had 15 minutes to get to higher ground before basically the entire town was going to be flooded out. And so I remember people talking about it, but I didn't realize that they tested it on the first Monday of every month, and I froze. I flipped out. My son was sleeping. I started pacing back and forth and calling my mom. I was like, I don't know what to do, and she wasn't picking up, and I was worried, worried about leaving, like if I should rip my son out of bed. So I got him out of bed and started throwing the most random things into a bag, kicking myself for not having like a bug out bag, and getting into my car, only to find out nobody else was freaking out. Nobody else seemed concerned that the mountain was exploding and we were all gonna die. Yeah, it was just an alarm. But I'm telling you, for the 5 minutes that they set that baby off, which is about how long? Maybe it wasn't that long. Maybe it's more like 2 minutes. I don't know. It felt like an eternity though. I was like, well, I guess this is how I'm ending. Better than dying of like heart failure, or I don't know, it'd be kind of cool for people. Oh yeah, we knew Amber. She died in that, volcanic eruption. Kind of a morbid way to think, isn't it? That got dark quick. Yeah, a little side story there. 2, 3, 4. I think I need one more. In the beginning stitches, we're doing 3 yarn overs. If you do a little bit more or a little less, chances are you're going to be the only person who even notices. Though beautiful, unforgettable yarn is notorious for really tangling and giving you a run for your money in those regards. Then when we start working those petals across, it's just 2 yarn overs into each instead of the 3 like we do at the beginning. One more loop, you can do it. There we go. I feel like that loop got a little big. I think it might take a few projects using this stitch before I'm real comfortable with it. Did I like not do it? Did I just do a slip stitch or something through this? I feel like it's being kind of weird. Oh my goodness. I don't even know. Hi, Jane. I suppose that's what I get for trying to speed this up. This is not a This is not a speedy stitch. And I really think that trying to speed through it is going to cause you a lot of frustration. Causing myself frustration. Hey Joanne, this is the Jasmine stitch. At least that's what I had found it to most commonly be called. Some people also refer to it as a flower stitch. There's 2, 3, and 4. 5 and 6. One more loop. There we go. Yay, Sue. I'm hoping that this will be super clear and easy for you to follow. Looks like just a couple more. No. I feel like if I can't get a good rhythm of this, I'm gonna drive myself crazy. Loose tension works better, but I also noticed that if your tension is too loose, you end up with bigger holes, which isn't a huge deal, I guess. I don't know if big holes is going to be enough to prevent me from continuing on. Gloria's asking, is that silk? No, it is Red Hearts Unforgettable, which of all variegated yarns is my favorite because I love the way that the colors work up. And it's gradual. You know, their color changes are pretty gradual and in the same color family. There's some variegated yarns where I'm just like, what were you even thinking? The colors clash so hard. Those are the ones I can't stand. Two. This will be the last stitch. Making sure everything's kind of pulled down. Give myself a good space to work through. Plenty of yarn, like a glove. Perfecto. All right, there it is, you guys, the Jasmine star stitch. As you yourself work on this piece, you'll be able to get, you know, a more, I guess, consistent look to it as you do this more. Again, I'll show you guys. This was the first one that I did. So we'll just do a little comparison. That one being the most recent, this one being my first. You can see my holes were pretty dang big. This was the second one. Holes still randomly kind of big. And then this one is looking, in my opinion, a lot more put together. My tension, I was controlling my tension better. And it looks good. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys have thought of this tutorial. If you loved it, I would so appreciate a share so other people can, you know, hear that I'm out here doing these hooker tutorials that they just shouldn't be missing out on or something. I don't know. I'm going to go up and see what my kiddos are doing because they're being, you know, I talk about this a lot. They're being so quiet and I haven't heard them fight once. It makes me question what they're doing to keep themselves busy up there. But yeah, that's it, you guys. I'm going to be doing a very basic, beginner-friendly shell stitch for tomorrow's tutorial. Probably same time, 10 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And I hope that I see you guys there. I hope that you're feeling confident in your skills. And I'm just happy that you're part of my community, you guys. You make it definitely worth it to keep creating, sharing knowledge, and teaching others. So hope you're inspired. Hope you got a hook in your hand. And I'll talk to you guys all real soon. Have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.